My name is Ravi. I welcome you to this dissemination meeting. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope everyone is safe. This is a baseline dissemination, and we have experts like Akila Shivdasji, who's the executive director of CFAR, Dr. Kanchan Mathur, who's the principal investigator. We also have Pushpa Mai. So we welcome everyone on this great occasion. We also have Kavitaji. We will listen to the suggestions. I will request Rakhi ji to moderate the session. My welcome and greetings to everyone. Uh, People who were involved in this survey, many of them are present today. This is the Jaipur Baseline Survey. Researchers, community members, everyone, I offer my greetings to. So we are going to share the findings of the baseline survey, which was conducted in Jaipur. CFAR has been working for the past several years, since 2012 in Rajasthan, on water and sanitation. Particularly, we have been very active. A lot has happened, but a lot more needs to be done. So the question is how to make sure that the participation of the community is strengthened so that the services they are expected, they are supposed to receive, reach them well with their participation. We have officials from the Jaipur Municipal Corporation who are associated with us. We have worked a lot in the area of WASH. When the Swachh Bharat mission was started, there was an emphasis on every household having a toilet. More than 1,000 toilets were constructed in Jaipur with the participation of the community. A lot of work in the management aspect was done. For adolescent girls, girls who are going to school who were not going to school earlier. A lot was done for them. There's a Jwalanagar Jhalana area. A single window system was operated so that apart from wash, the social entitlement schemes which are available to the people which they were not able to benefit from, those were made available to them through the single window system. Uh, COVID is currently on us, and the situation in Jaipur is quite grim. The importance of sanitation is very important. The importance of sanitation is key in stopping the pandemic and keeping people safe. I'd like to request those on the panel and others who've joined in to mute their phones so that there is little disturbance. And I hope everyone can hear my voice and that of others. People who are associated with us, Dr. Kanchan, who's the principal investigator, and Dr. Sujit, who's the co investigator. They will share the findings with you. We're going to share a screen with you. So we'll share a screen which will give you information on the findings of the study. The methodology, the way the service is conducted. One of the people associated is Kritika, so they will be sharing this information with us. We have officials from PHED, which is the Public Health Engineering Department. So they will be part of this so that the recommendations and findings of the study are reflected on by government and the stakeholders. There's people from special communities like Pushpa Mai, Kavita, people with disabilities, transgenders, and so on, how their special needs are important and what these needs are and how we can address these needs better. So we'll prepare a strategy and an action plan for future based on our discussion today. So this is the agenda for today, which I am sharing with you. So we are sharing with you now the findings of the survey that we conducted. So this is on the screen now. So we have uh, committed to telling each other what we have done in the area of wash, and we'll have a discussion, and the recommendations that emerge from the discussion and also from the community, we'll discuss how to take this forward. There's a sound problem. I'd like to invite Kritika Kapil, who has been associated with this survey. She'll tell us about the methodology and the details of how this survey was conducted. I'd like to apologize to everyone due to technical issues. We'll take a minute or so to resolve these. So please stand by. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kritika Kapil. I'd like to share with you the research methodology in brief. We focused on gender and its intersectionalities in this survey. We particularly focused on the most vulnerable communities, such as the elderly, women, transgenders, adolescent girls, persons with disability. We conducted this study in 11 wards of 6 zones of the city of Jaipur. So that we could represent a wider cross section of society. Vidya Nagar zone, Bapud Basti. People from Sansi community, along with disabled people and transgender. Sundar Nagar, which had widows, adolescent girls, ward number 10. Persons which had persons with disability, Patel Nagar, ward number 80. We found children, widows, Mansarovar Bijlalpura zone, Swami Basti, where a large population of persons with disability, the elderly, and adolescents. Manoharpura, Kachi Basti, ward number 45. We found a lot of domestic workers here. We also chose Valmiki colony. We found people from low income groups and excluded communities. Hawa Mahal in Peace Zone in Transport Nagar. We found transgenders from here. Civil lines, we found transgenders and civil lines. So we similarly chose areas and found representation of people with vulnerabilities. We used a mixed methodology method so that we could find representation from vulnerable communities. Our sample size was 1118 households, 1118 households. Out of these, 238 households, 238 households were chosen. So that's the breakup of 228 households. This enumeration was done by field investigators compared with men. There were more women as part of the survey. In every group, 8 to 10 people were included. Women health committees, self-help groups, youth groups. In qualitative method, we did focus group discussions and informal interviews. So interviews were conducted with policymakers and decision makers and community members. We found people who understood the community. So we chose 15 community-based researchers. They were trained twice. When community researchers were ready, then we started the survey. So this has been, in short, our research methodology. Now let me hand over to Rakhi. Thank you. I'd like to invite Dr. Kanchan Mathur. We are slightly delayed. Please start the PowerPoint. Let me give you a background of the study. There were three purposes of conducting this survey. We wanted to assess in Jaipur's the situation of water and sanitation, particularly the situation of the poor communities. And even in this, the poor, the particularly vulnerable community like transgenders, women, elderly, persons with disability. Even among them, we wanted to see what is the access of persons with disability, the elderly, and women. Even among women, we were especially looking at single women and widows, see how the adolescent girls were faring, particularly during the time of menstruation. Second, we tried to assess the schemes of the government to strengthen WASH. So we were getting up to speed with these schemes and the achievements of these schemes. So we wanted to prepare through this baseline a database so that with this data in the next 5 years, how future planning of water and sanitation services could be planned. So this is the background. Methodology has already been discussed. Kritika has already told us about the sample size and the geographic areas, the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, other backward communities we particularly focused on. We conducted key informant interviews, focus group discussions. Water is the most pressing need of the communities. 62% of the people have water connections, 32% have their private or government based borewell. About 50% houses get 135 liters per LPCD, liters per person per capita. A lot of people said they found the water to be dirty, smelly. So a lot of people complained of health problems related to water, including cramps in the stomach, problems with hair, with teeth. So there were 1118 number of households. So we are welcoming a very senior official who's just joined us, Mr. Arun Garg. I'm grateful to Kanchanji and the team who have given me this opportunity. I'd like to quote Mahatma Gandhi, who said that whenever you are in a state of indecision or whenever you are taking a decision, you should think of the last person in the queue. So, this is the basis of the decision, and I believe whatever the government does, the primary focus is on the most marginalized sections. They are the ones who need government support the most. But in the last 25 years that I have been with the government, my own experience is that working with the poor and underprivileged sections who neither have good educational backgrounds nor good social backgrounds, working with them to understand what they need, to address their needs, is sometimes not easy, and we have not been able to support these people to the extent we would have liked. So the role of the NGOs that work with us and these communities, the role is supreme, is very important. So they are the ones who are able to advise us how to work best with them. And I'm grateful to Center for Advocacy and Research who keep contacting the municipal corporation, keep telling us, keep pursuing with us what to do, how to do. And I'm really grateful for that. So, as Kanchanji was mentioning, the survey goes into the details of the water and sanitation situation of these people. So Kanchanji has told us that 62% of people have their own water connections. 25 years ago, when I joined the service, the situation was quite bad and has improved since then. A survey like this will help us understand the ground realities better so that we can accordingly So about 14% go to toilets to their neighbors' houses, or they use community toilets. The rest resort to open defecation. If we focus on sanitation, 85% of households, 85% households have toilets, and the rest use toilets in others' houses or go to community toilets. The rest go in for open defecation. Those who have toilets, about 50% had these constructed more than 5 years ago. So, very small proportion, the research says, get their septic tanks cleaned periodically. Bijlalpura, Hathrohi, Patel Nagar, JP Colony, and Sundar Nagar. So, the problem of desludging and garbage collection is a major problem in these areas. If we look at cleanliness, 96% of respondents, 96% of them said they wash after defecation and before eating. About 49% of people find soap to be quite expensive. So they think that it's okay to wash with just water without a soap. They find soaps to be expensive. 29% of respondents believe that if wash hands properly with soap and water, so diseases like diarrhea can be averted. In spite of that, people are not able to use soap and water. About 10 lakh people, 1 million people have died due to corona worldwide. In India, more than 50 lakh people, which is about 5 million, have been affected by corona, and about 90,000 people have died. Urban areas are considered to be hotspots of COVID in Rajasthan. Jaipur and Jodhpur are two districts where there have been maximum number of COVID cases. So the government has made subsidized ration, which is food, available to the urban poor in cities like Jaipur. So communities such as transgenders too have had cash transfers in the city. So some of these steps have been taken by the government. If we hear the voices coming from the ground, a young woman, an adolescent from Valmiki colony says, we have a source of water 250 to 300 meters from the house. Every day I take 15 to 20 minutes to go to this tube well to get water. So a lot of people who are drunk, young men particularly, who tease me and other girls, and I feel very insecure. Many girls like me face this situation and they don't have an alternative. I know the water is not clean. My joints pain, my knees are swollen, and I don't have the money to buy water. This is said by a 70-year-old widow woman. So, as you can see, we discussed a whole lot of issues, a range of issues with community members. It is difficult for me to walk with a bucket of water. This is said by a man who is a senior citizen, and he says in Valmiki colony. We've done key informant interviews. So we have conducted a series of interviews on a particular issue, getting different sections of community to respond to these issues so that we can assess what the young people are saying, what the elderly are saying, what widows are saying, how every section has a take on that particular issue. For instance, the garbage man, the movement of the vehicle, people said that since they live inside the lanes and the van only comes to the main road, they often miss giving their garbage to the van. So there are these inconveniences too. And as this young woman said about being teased by men near a water source, this is an issue as well. In community toilets, there's lack of hygiene, there is lack of water. So we can hear a lot of voices in this. So we will have to factor the findings in so as to have bring out new policies which address these very specific needs. I'll stop here and would like to hear the next speaker. I'd like to invite Dr. Sujit Kumar so that he can share the recommendations with us. As you heard the previous speakers on the state of water and sanitation in the city of Jaipur, how many are getting water, how many clean their water, and what's most important. You see this sort of data in other places too. So the gap between communities that gets adequate water and a community that is struggling for water, how to bridge this gap. So we have conducted this study and we'll make suggestions so that we can bridge this gap. COVID-19 has led to a reality check, and it has made us see how people live in crowded communities and how they are making do with the very least water sanitation services and how they live and exist. So we have to, it teaches us how to bridge this gap. And as you heard, 62% of families get water from the tap. These families don't have an assured time of supply of water, and the time of water supply keeps changing, and the water is not adequate. So a family of five getting 135 liters of water is uh, the requirement, but they don't get this level of water supply. So people miss out on their livelihood opportunities because of a lack of water. Even little children are taking on responsibilities of providing water for their families, collecting water for their families. The most vulnerable communities are particularly affected. So, how can we bring about improvements in the short and the long term? So, we have officials with us who can find alternate systems of reaching out to the poor, and the findings of the survey are here before us, before them. So, we have to look at the solutions from two perspectives, in the immediate future and in the distant future. Immediate to more sustainable solutions. For instance, if you install a hand pump or a bore well, uh, the old and the aged cannot go there, or if the bore well is installed far from the community areas, disabled people will find it very difficult to access water. So these were some suggestions on what we can do with water. The second set of data is on sanitation. Jaipur has achieved a lot and compares quite well with many other cities. But sometimes data doesn't tell us everything. For instance, 85% people have toilets, but there are multiple members in a house, all of whom need to use toilets. Some of them end up using community toilets. And if they don't find even these available, they go in for open defecation. And those who don't have toilets, they have to go in for open defecation. Sharing toilets is a very, very personal arrangement. There are only 2% of toilets which are disabled and elderly friendly. What can we give them in the near future, immediate future? So could be in the form of temporary arrangements, mobile toilets, which are available to people. So we have to see what we can do in the near and in the later future. And Corona has shown us that if one person is affected, the entire community can be severely affected. You may have heard in Corona COVID advertisements about the need for washing hands frequently, but one needs resources to make this happen. The survey has shown that people don't have adequate resources to even buy soap, or they don't have water to adopt these safe and hygienic practices. 15% of people do not wash hands after defecation or before meals. This diagram tells you a lot, this graphic, this illustration. So there's a stakeholder, which is essentially the administration, the service providers like the Jaipur Municipal Corporation, and the community is the community as in people who depend on services. And the civil service society organizations are the connecting link in between. There are many organizations like CFAR. So can we form a good relationship between the community and the establishment, the stakeholder, as Mr. Garg said? They're not adequately educated. They don't know how to obtain their rights, realize their rights. If they have a problem like not getting water, who to approach, what to do, or if they need a community toilet, who to approach. So we need to form an active relationship between the stakeholder and the community. Thank you. This will help in improving services. Thank you, Dr. Sajid Kumar. Pooja from the community is going to put forth her points. She's from the community. Greetings. My name is Pooja. I live in Swami Basti. I have played a role in conducting this baseline survey in my community. I have surveyed Sundarnagar, Swami Basti. I personally got educated a lot on the issues of water and sanitation during this survey. I myself live in a slum and I know about the difficulties related to wash. But interacting with different sections like widows, elderly, single women, adolescents, so coming to know about everyone's challenges was quite eye-opening for me. Every community, every section have their own challenges. If you talk about an ordinary woman, keeping a household clean is a responsibility usually of a woman, but she has a lot of challenges finding water to do it. If she doesn't find adequate water, she goes far to get it. She boils water, keeps her house clean, and her family members remain healthy. But if she doesn't have the resources to do it, then her problems increase. When we were conducting the survey, a lot of people used to ask. So people used to ask, why are you conducting this survey? And we would tell them that to improve any situation, we need to know that better. So we would obtain information on water and sanitation issues from them. Some people would tell us very openly. They started trusting us, knowing we were trying to solve their problem, which would benefit them. Women used to hesitate because they were facing a lot of problem. People told us that in their communities, in their neighborhood, they had facilities but they had to struggle a lot to get these services. Like the water tank would be available, but an elderly person would not be able to go to that tank, which was quite far, and get water from there. The 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 rest will be told to us by Manju, who is also a field researcher. I conducted a survey in Valmiki Colony and Manojpura. I looked at adolescent girls and persons with disability very closely who would end up losing on their educational opportunities because of problems related to water and sanitation. So disabled persons were not getting their pensions apart from facing water and sanitation situation. There was a lot of dirt near the water tank and in the neighborhood. So we asked us where they would throw the garbage, and they told us they would throw the garbage in the forest. Sometimes the supplied water was so dirty that they would have to walk a kilometer to kilometer and a half to get it. We discussed with adolescents. They told us they sometimes use cloth or napkins. I've, I'm inviting Mr. Devdas Solanki from PhED, Public Health Engineering Department. I have gone through the presentation. I was hearing people and listening to them and watching the presentations. There is a big issue of unorganized settlements in Kachi bastis, like slum areas. When the Bapu Basti was formed, we created a water network. But the slums kept on increasing, and then lanes were so narrow that it was very difficult to lay down the pipes and create infrastructure. Swami Basti and Sundar Nagar, people have taken connections, but there are no taps. So whenever there is water supply, the water just flows on the street. People don't care, and the the dirt and unhygienic environment it creates is very sad, and it's a very sad situation that so much water is wasted. And the people who are beyond them, people who are beyond these areas, they don't get supply because of this wastage. So I would like Sifar to help in making communities aware in these bastis, to make people aware that they should install taps and use the services responsibly. And when we go, when our teams go to catch water boosters, which is illegal, people protest. And these are water boosters. The moment which are illegal, which draw unduly, unfairly on the water supply. So the moment the teams land up, people switch off their water boosters and get these inside. Rachana, who's been working with us, CFAR person working with us for Valmiki Basti, she's been coming to us. So 80% of the work has been done thanks to these persistent visits, and the rest of the work will soon be done. There's a similar problem in Sundarnagar. It is our endeavor in PHED to provide water, clean water, to people's doorsteps. There are some illegal connections. There's some illegal connections. So these connections are could be lying in drains. Now, whenever there is clean water coming through the regular pipes, these illegal connections may draw water from drains, may which gets into the clean water supply and makes water dirty. Your study, CIFA study, is very informative. Water is very important for health and productivity. There's a problem of fluoride in Nagaur. There's a clean water project worth 3,000 crores to provide clean water with the support of Japanese government. Their appraisal team visited in 2011. So I invited them to come to the site. So I took them to villages which had a serious problem. There was a woman with a hunchback, and there were people who were not very old, but they were suffering a lot. They were living like old people. So we pursued with the government. They told us that we'll pursue with the government of Japan to do this urgently and immediately. So from 40 out of 1400 villages, around 1100 villages are currently getting water from this project. In the Kachi Basti, people are involved in labor-oriented work, and if their health is good, they'll be able to work better. It is a priority that they get clean and safe water. It is an important responsibility of ours, and we are working in this. We have got many projects sanctioned and are executing this. And I'd like to sit down with you and discuss your findings so that we can find practical solutions to the problems. We'll definitely do. But again, I'd like to repeat that the need to raise awareness is critical. Is the need to raise awareness is critical, and people need to stop wasting water. It is a deplorable situation. We cannot take much action because our resources and manpower are rather limited. So wherever we go to take action, we are faced with protests. So we are committed to making potable water available to everyone, and we'd like to sit down with you and discuss the findings. Thank you very much. So the action plan, uh, we'd like to discuss with you, and we'd love to work on this with you together. So fluorosis is quite a big problem here. The commitment you are offering on fluorosis is a very good offer. I'd like to say Sanganer South. Leaving aside Sanganer town, there is no problem of fluoride. Jaipur city has a problem of high nitrite. Nitrate is an issue. So it leads to a blue baby syndrome. The body turns blue due to lack of oxygen. There's no the primary reason. So whenever there is a breakage in the line, it sucks water, dirty water, to search that out, to repair that break is a big challenge, and which we actually do. So muddy water has been reported by people from Bapu Basti. This should not be happening. We should not have such issues. I have issued directions that this should be checked. We have laboratory technicians, chemists. They go during supply times to areas and they tell us about bacteriological contamination if there is, and we get these reports. And on the basis of these reports, we take corrective action. The fluoride issue that I mentioned, that is in the Nagaur district. Since UNICEF works on children, we have been working in the area of fluorosis, and we are looking for support from community-based organizations. My suggestion is water safety planning from source to consumer end is very important. We'll have to work together to make sure there are no breaches, no leakages. So we need to work closely with organizations like CFAR. So we'll have to see how poor communities who are impacted by this, how we can help them. So we are trying to get land from Jaipur Development Authority so that we can provide adequate and clean water to certain areas. There are some areas which are getting water from very far. So there are these issues. So we are trying to find solutions. We checked in Dungapur. We found the water was safe in Dungarpur. But when we checked at home, in homes in Dungarpur, the water was more than 60% was contaminated. So I think we'll have to wear on the software aspects. So we'll have to make people aware as well, so that there's near Eidgah, uh, I was told by a journalist friend that 5 persons of a family have together fallen sick. So I went to check, look up on them. So there was a similar problem in many households. There are a lot of open drains there. So there's open defecation happening. So there were no sewers and toilets, and there were flies. It was a very dirty environment. So our teams checked water. So we checked water. The water was fine. There were other issues that were identified, and it was found that the municipal corporation should be working more actively in this area. So whenever there is a problem anywhere, it is often blamed on PHED, but in most of the cases, that is not the issue. It is something else. Our executive director, Akhila Shivdas, has made a suggestion that can solutions be worked out in with communities leadership? Definitely. In the walled city, there are 15 to 20 families in the Bada area. We have installed tube wells there. So we have so the with the community we worked out uh, how water will be supplied and during which hours. So this is something that is being worked out directly by the community. I'd like to invite Mr. Manoj Goswami from the Jaipur Municipal Corporation. Mr. Goswami. So it's Pushma Mai now speaking. Greetings to everyone. I'm Malini Das from CFAR. Last year in 2019, in 11 localities, we conducted a baseline survey. Let's research. So we carried out, many issues came up. So the vulnerable community are not able to benefit from the mainstream, the schemes and entitlements which are available to people. I hope our limited resources can be used in solving the problems. I'd like to now invite transgender community leader Pushpa Mai to please speak a few words. My name is Pushpa, and I've been working for the transgender community for the past 25 years. My community lives mostly in slums. This is because my community has been discriminated against so much that this is where they live. And water and sanitation services are a big, big area of our problems. So, gender discrimination is very strong in our community. And people from my community are the last to get water. They don't know how to get connections, where to go, how to complete formalities, how to get identity cards, ration cards, how to get how to get identity cards, which members of our community don't have. So we would like to have the transgender signage on mobile toilets and toilets for us identified. So lots of gardens which are under the municipal corporation. So people from my community should be employed to look after these gardens and parks. We can water and look after these and be employed. If there are committees within the if there are committees which are looking into people's problems and solving these problems, transgenders should be included in this community. There are some of us who don't have their own houses, so we had suggested shelter homes. People who come from outside are not able to get rooms in hotels or inns, dharamshalas. So there is no signage on toilets. So where do people from my community go? Places where uh, entertainment programs are organized should be made available to transgenders at a concessional rate. There should be transgender health camps as well so that we can benefit. Our medical checkup, etc., can be done. Jaipur is a city of the royalties. If some traditional paintings can be done, my community will get employment. And how the municipal corporation can help us, we'd like to discuss. So we are trying to get signage for transgenders. Thank you very much, Pushpaji. One more point I'd like to make. I'd like to propose a survey on transgenders. So we have been connected with some schemes, but we are still not getting free ration. So if our community can get ration for 3 to 4 months free of cost in this special pandemic time, it will be of great help to us. I'd like to invite Kavita. So, Kavita is now going to speak. I'd like to discuss only a few points drawn from the study. We've started the survey with COVID 19 being a person with disability. In spite of my limitations, I have experienced my limitations, particularly during the pandemic. A lot of people, the government is making efforts, but until there is an integrated approach, it will come too little. If I am a wheelchair user, I use a stick or crutches. How exposed I am to pathogen. So whenever I go to the toilet, I have to keep using equipment when I go to the toilet. And even before I wash my hands after using the toilet, I touch my equipment. So my exposure to germs is much more. So the washing facility within the toilet is very important. Whenever I'm on tour or travel, so there is always something lacking. Either there is no ramp or there is no railing. If I manage to somehow climb up, the surface may be wet, so wet that I'm not able to walk properly. I may slip. So, this simple concern of mine should be catered for. So, there'll be expenses unless this is done in integrated manner. There'll be expenses, but will not bring us the benefit. When we discuss equitable water distribution, which I was listening to, the community should get the right to audit. We'll have to monitor if there are 10 people in a family, if they are allowed two buckets, and if there are two people, then they are allowed two buckets. We'll have to audit. There is a proportion of people who think that washing hands with just water is adequate. I'd like to use the word awakening instead of awareness. These people need to have an awakening rather than awareness. We discussed not being able to afford soap for washing. I'd like to give you a solution. The sweet soda, the bicarbonate soda, just a pinch of that is enough. If this sort of awakening can be done, our job will be done. I'm currently focusing on the persons with disability, getting water to them with community support, small trolleys with which can take a few buckets, which are managed by young people who are driven and who are very happy to work for others. So they should be through community initiatives, such solutions should be found. Even if it involves, even if it involves uh, getting funded by the community or through PHED or JMC, so that disabled people can get water at home. So sometimes there is not enough time to deliver garbage during garbage collection. So if pits can be created so that people can put their garbage in that pit, from where the garbage collecting vehicle can pick up the garbage. This could be a solution and nobody will miss out. People with locomotor disabilities have similar problems. We don't have a master plan to conduct any. I'd like to invite Ravi. Mr. Manoj Goswami is with us. I'd like to please invite you to speak. कुछ नहीं, कुछ नहीं, मैं बस पूछ रहा था. So we need to address gaps at the policy level. How to So we have to think of alternatives if we are not able to get the line to reach a particular point. How to address gaps, wash gaps. So how to bring about ward level engagement. So how to include women, the vulnerable sections from the community in policy. That is very important. Not just from the project perspective, but from the perspective that they've been excluded for long. From an overall exclusion perspective. Mr. Manoj Goswami now. Thank you, CFAR, for inviting me. Jaipur has about 216 and 532 community toilets which municipal corporation has installed. So it was a scheme from the government where people could make their own toilets, but that was not possible in several areas. So the municipal corporation is managing these community toilets with the help of Sulabh International. Sulabh International is an organization. So we have community toilets. So there is a person there to clean the toilets, but there is no provision for him to sit there. So we have to make sure that conveniences are provided to the caretaker so that the person is available for 24 hours. So the place where he can stay. People are still not using these toilets properly. So we'd like to take the help of CFAR so that people can be made more aware and they use these community facilities with care. What is the role of the community? We'd like to inform them so that they can help the municipal corporation in making wash services better. So CFAR, if you and other organizations can help in making people aware not to use, go in for open defecation. So you can form a partnership of representatives from community so that there is a chain of people who go and make others aware. So if you can include transgenders in your team so that they also get employment. So if you can prepare a plan, uh, you can prepare a plan, we can discuss and we can make this happen. So, if we can create some sort of an app so that we can identify for a visually impaired person where these community toilets are available, if you can please help in developing an app like this so that these toilets can be located, it would be very helpful. We have already identified about 150 Sulabh toilets on Google Maps. So there could be a few that are not marked on the map. We will identify these. So right now it is only on Google, but if there is such a system that is available, we can definitely consider that. Thank you, Manoj sir. We have 2 minutes. The floor is open. I'd like to thank Sifat. Very insightful issues on transgenders, water and sanitation. There are no easy solutions. We also listen to the government, to communities. So this discussion today is very important in driving us, helping us move towards a solution. It was very, very rewarding for me personally. So somebody like me will look at a ramp. So whenever next time activities like this, like assessing the situation, when you do something like this, involve people like us so that we can give you a user perspective and a great, greater insight. Thank you very much, Kavita ji. So we will move ahead with your help. I'd like to request Akila Shivdas ji to say a few words. Thank you very much.